there was one guy I was dealing with getting a little bit pissy over the kid interrupting the call thing, and I'm like, appreciate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please. Yeah.
My bad. Please continue. It's very alliterative.
They are going to be the ones powering the experiences that every customer has.
Preference has power. I'm pretty sure Cato would say to me when I do every show, stop.
I think he would.
Those peeps are popping. Wait till you get the invoice.
Here. I have a question. When's the last time you danced? When's the last time you laughed?
Right now. I don't want to dance with you.
When's the last time you flew a kite?
Toasted Oreo.
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane.
did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, happy Monday, March 29th, 2021. I hope you are well. It is 9 p.m. Eastern Daily Time, EDT, and we're live. It's late night with myself and Lou Diamond, Lou Diamond himself. Loud, heavy D, not so heavy, actually light. He's a great guy, Lou Diamond. I met him in the house, in the club. And I took him home with me because he's adorable. And he is going to be live in the studio where both of us are going to be watching ourselves pre-recorded previously live. And then we're going to go into Clubhouse and talk about the live show in which we actually watched ourselves pre-recorded live. And if you're confused, trust me, so are we. But more on him soon enough. For now, let's get into fact blogging. And look, let's just cut right to the chase. After 2 seders, after 2 nights of overeating on Passover, I lost 0.1. So that is good. No, that's not good. That is great. That is a win. That is an absolute monster win that I was able to somehow maintain my weight. So kudos to me. Today is National Smoke and Mirrors Day. And wow, I feel like Lou and I could probably talk about this for about an hour, just talking about smoke and mirrors, what is real, what is not real, what is perceived, the mirrors, the walls, the appearances that so many people put up. But what really happens behind the curtain? Maybe something for our Clubhouse room. Well, let's talk about this week, though. Not Lou Diamond is my guest tonight. Ashley Zekman tomorrow. Done a little bit of a switchy, and Sandra D. Robinson, take 3, will be on at a different time of 11 a.m. on Wednesday. And then Jeff Kirshner. Jeff, actually, amazing guy. Started a whole initiative called Litterati, designed to basically clean up litter around the world. He's doing some unbelievable things in terms of cleaning up so many areas of this world that have been devastated due to pollution, etc. And we'll hear his story on Thursday. But today we're going to focus on the other Lou Diamond, the real Lou Diamond. Lou is a speaker, connector, and podcaster, and he's really built a personal brand, a professional brand, unified, laser-focused, and a brilliant story as well, which you will see soon enough. Well, there are a whole bunch of birthdays, obviously, over the weekend. I'm just looking, Sean Gupta, Harrison Sebring, previous clients of mine, Norm Johnston, Eric Porras. I'm trying to see if there are any other people who have been who have been guests on my show. There's Chris Nuna, Dana Nurali, and then John Burkhart, the great, the legendary. He's a legend in his own mind. That's how much of a legend he is. John Burkhart, happy birthday to you, my friend. Matt Searles, Craig Calder. And then on LinkedIn, we've got Ilan Miller, we've got Pierre Rollin, we've got John Nemo. I wonder if we found him yet. Get it? Whatever, it's late at night. Peter Gornell, and I don't have anybody writing my jokes. Carl Ford, Rowan Najjo, Jad Hav. Listen, I'm drinking cheap kosher for Passover wine. What do you want from me? Give me a bloody break. Yeah, give me a break. So now it's time for our seated soliloquy. And today you're going to be hearing about the concept of thriving, from survival to thrival, the idea of what it is to thrive. It's an amazing, amazing concept, which my guest really has built an entire practice foundation and career on. As you'll hear on our interview today with the real Lou Diamond, his definition of thrive is onward and upward, a manifestation of the Johnny Walker campaign, Keep Walking. Or as I've said in the past, the shark that keeps moving constantly, because if it stands still or stops moving, it will surely die. Or Muhammad Ali's fast and fancy footwork, he never stopped moving for a second. I think of the idea of momentum itself. And if life is for the most part an uphill climb involving a large rock, no, not the Blarney Stone, then we dare not slow down to allow the rock to take the upper hand. If so, it's all downhill from there and it's painful. Onward and upward is about progress and victories, even small ones, even tiny ones, maybe especially the small ones. When you look backwards, have you made progress? Have you taken strides in the right direction? What time period seems realistic to benchmark these achievements? How about last week or last month? Or if that seems a little ambitious, what about last quarter or even last year? Certainly we've all been through a similar year, so that seems like an apples to apples comparison, right? Comparing ourselves to last year. So did you advance or did you fall back? And standing still does not count. Standing still equals falling behind. Moreover, how did you measure success? Did you measure the right things? Were your metrics and milestones realistic? My window of progress is often as short as 24 hours. I'm able to shift or swivel on a constant basis, and it energizes me. It actually motivates me. My endless inconsistency is the very essence of my consistency. Sometimes I can even compress this further. In the past hour, for example, I figured out exactly how I want to use Instagram Live for my show. As a pre-recorded interview, like I did with Lou a couple of weeks ago, or purely for promotional purposes, like I did with Sean last week, 24 hours before his appearance. I have tested and learned, and I've come up with what I believe is the right solution. Thriving is defined as onward and upward, or as I call it, movement and momentum. And you know what? When it happens often and over enough time, a funny thing occurs. Something you might have previously referred to as a labor of love, well, it just becomes love. And now, speaking of love, I love to spend time with this man and bring him onto the show. This is now take 3 in many respects, because it was kind of cool. I was on his show, and then he was on my show, and now he's back on my show, and then we're going to go into Clubhouse. So I guess it will be a 4-peat. Lou Diamond is a keynote speaker, a master connector, a consultant, a leadership coach, a best-selling author, a podcast host, CEO of Thrive, focused on helping businesses, leaders, and brands thrive through the power of connecting. And now, once again, 3 times a charm or something like that, here he is in the studio. Mr. Lou Diamond, welcome to the show.
Joseph, first of all, what a lovely introduction. And second of all, I now have to rewrite the whole entire website of Thrive and Thrive Loud, just because you like repackaged how we should be thinking of moving onward and upward. That was well done, with green in the background for those watching here today. So all about moving onward and upward. I'm excited to be here again and again and again and again and again. I think that's how we're doing it.
As Yogi Berra would have said, it's deja vu all over again.
Yes.
All right. So what we're going to do today is we're basically going to watch ourselves talking to one another on Instagram 2 weeks ago. So this is the Lou Diamond of 2 weeks ago. Has he grown? Has he learned? Has he moved into an even more incredible position of thrival since we last connected?
It's a good question. I think one thing we're going to learn for sure is either we're going to realize how difficult it is to look at ourselves so much over, and maybe even more importantly, maybe people are going to start looking at me and say, maybe I should get a more modern, up-to-date pair of AirPods.
I have no doubt that they will be saying that. All right, so we're going to watch our interview. The one thing I did learn, by the way, talking of Instagram, is when you do an Instagram like so, then the whole video gets very verticalized. Correct. And maybe not landscapealized. Is that a word, landscapealized?
Portrait, landscaped. I think you can make a verb or a verb phrase out of anything. And Joseph, with an accent like yours, if you say it with enough confidence, people will believe
landscapealized. Yes. Landscapealized.
It sounds perfectly believable.
By the way, my learning is if you do an Instagram live like so, right, then obviously then and the people watching would have to watch like this because everything would turn around. When the video comes out, the video is still portrait, but then you can just rotate it 90 degrees, and I guess you would be able to use it then in a StreamYard type of format, and it would fill the screen. So I actually figured out how to do it. What you're about to see is not the way to do it, but still,
it's a way to do it. Joseph, I just have a real important question before you start showing this. Since it's smoke and mirrors, is it day or week? It's smoke and mirror. What did you say in the opening? Is it
day? It's
National Smoke and Mirrors Day. So the question is, if you took your phone, went on to Instagram Live right now and filmed something that you were showing on us watching the Instagram Live that we watched before, would we break a fourth wall? That's all I want to know. It would be kind of like a Matrix effect. Do you understand what I'm doing? Like if we actually filmed on Instagram Live, what we're about to watch back on Instagram Live, would that just be too much?
You see, Manif just said too much brain work for this hour. I feel I would break something else.
No worries. I'm excited for this. I'm more excited to figure out how this is going to work than anything else. But,
all right, well,
I am here to be your lab rat. I again will be your lab rat, Joseph.
We're going to watch. We're basically going to try and play it right through. Yeah. At some points, Lou might talk over himself, and then I might talk over him, talking over me. But let's watch the interview. It actually was a really, really great conversation with you. So, all things being equal, here goes nothing.
Well, we're here, and we're on here. I'll give you some emojis or something, right? Shouldn't I give like a?
Yeah, I really needed new AirPods.
So I think I did it. Yeah, give me anything. So I think. Oh, I just want to mention one thing, which is I'm going to be commenting as well. So I'm going to be interacting with you guys. I know Manif is there, David, Glenn, Bob. So I'm going to be commenting on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on many platforms. So, I'll be taking notes and I'll be interacting with you guys, but I'm going to stay on mute. Lou, on the other hand, is out of control, so he may do anything.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. I also noticed that this was recorded when I was in Florida, as I just noticed this, because I'm back in New York now, looking at the background. But keep going.
And you have weird white things coming out of your ears. But anyway,
it's kind of like very straight sperm, but that's not important right now. Okay, keep going.
This is what happens at late night. Here we go. I think by adjusting it up, so I see. Maybe I need it. All right, great. So
two guys in their 50s trying to get themselves on streaming. That's what it is. That's the world we live in.
Hang on a second. When you say two guys in their 50s, I think what you mean to say is two guys that are 50.
Yeah, well, that qualifies. We are 50. Are we in our 50s when we're past 50 and we're in like 51, or we just say we're 50?
I'm going to tell you actually one of the things that brings me joy, because we spoke today. We'll come back to that in a moment. One of the things that gives me joy is when I'm on my Peloton, I immediately.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
If you're riding and you've got a better time than maybe a female in her 30s or a man in his 20s, it's totally awesome. I love it. I love that.
No.
That's what I would tell you.
I was going to say something else. What I was going to say is what I do is I filter by 50s.
Okay.
So I look at who's here now, and then from a competitive standpoint, I am making sure that I'm racing against other, to use a nice Yiddish word, an alter kaka, another elderly gentleman or lady, because I figure I'm 50. So, someone who's 58 or 59, you know, they're on the tail end of this decade, was we young bucks that are 50.
That's what we are.
So I'm here in my official first Instagram Live with Mr. Lou Diamond, who is speaker, connector, podcaster. I mean, everything, right? Master connector, not just a connector, right? Keynote speaker, author, consultant, leadership coach, best-selling author. You are the host of a show that I was just on. I wasn't thriving out loud. I was surviving. I was thriving. I was joyous. It was awesome. You're also the CEO of Thrive, which is a company that helps businesses, leaders, and brands thrive through the power of connecting.
Indeed. You just nailed it.
Let's just talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Thrive through the power of connecting.
Yep.
What does that mean?
So I was put on this planet to work with the most amazing businesses, leaders, and brands and help them thrive through that connecting power. What that actually means is that when we bring two bodies together, whether it's a prospect or a client that you're trying to bring in sales, whether it's your customers you're trying to better message to, or the accounts you're trying to work with, or if you're a leader, the people that work in your organization. It turns out that great connections across those relationships do a lot of amazing things. We get to be more productive, more in sync. We work faster. We think alike. We've created an environment that actually isn't just us versus them. It's just one big we. And in bringing those worlds together and connecting, we actually are better in every aspect of our lives, our businesses, and our passions and who we are, which basically means that we are moving onward and upward, which means that when you connect, you thrive.
Well, that guy's
so the
brilliant.
power of connecting
really
is
smart.
understanding the muscles that we have inside of us, the ability to connect with others. And when we understand how to use them, when we work on our Peloton of life, if you would, to get ourselves in shape, to tone our connecting core, which is what is the essence that I've written about how to be a master connector. It is there in that place that master connectors take people to the other level, and our lives and businesses are made better. And that's where I sit in to help people work on those connecting muscles so they can be better and thriving each and every day.
Suddenly, something pops into my mind, which is a framework that I created when I wrote my very first book back in 2005. And I called it, you had your graph, your vertical and horizontal axis, and then there was a diagonal. And the framework was reach, connect, effect.
Yeah.
So, and this was actually in context of talking about marketing and media and brands, but reach, of course, we know what that is. That's just the ability to get in front of someone. Connect is engage, is reciprocity, is you got their attention and now you're keeping their attention. But effect was some kind of what I would call a high value outcome, some action, change, execution, some impact. And I would say that probably works really well for your model. To be a master connector, you have to be able to take that connect and turn it into an effect.
I believe that what I actually help people focus on in really being able to be better connectors is not so much think about what that end result is going to be and what the effect is going to be. It's actually to focus on what you need to do in the relationships, what you need to do to work on those connections, the questions you need to ask, the mindset you need to be in, the open and honestness that enable you to be, believe it or not, more attractive to want others to connect to you. And something probably right in line with something you believe is we each have our own little superpower, and master connectors have an ability to tap into it much quicker and also bring it out of others. So in focusing on making sure that you do a good job with those connections, the other stuff then happens. You choose to, like, we always want to work with people. We want to do business with people we like, right? We do. We want to work with people that we like. And part of liking people is connecting with them and understanding what they're about, what their pluses, what their minuses are, what their hot spots are, their hot buttons. And what's really, really important, Joseph, is that if I end up focusing too much on the results and not on the value of the connection, I'm going to lose multiple opportunities to have many wins, many sales, many big, great effects at the end there. So where I've recognized is the more you focus on maintaining and building and growing those relationships, the better the end results turn out to be at multiples and for a longer period of time. So that's where I play in. And I agree with your chart that those things do lead to the effects of what you're dealing with. I just get a lot of times we just sometimes forget how important it is to make sure we focus on those relationships and those connections and get lost with the result instead.
I see a lot of, when we think about connecting with people, we think of networking, we think of business development, we think of sales. I think of that B2B classic truism, which is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The other day I was talking to a sales leader on my show, and they were talking about the fact that when you're focused on the quota, the metrics, the numbers, you're already looking beyond the person. But
Correct.
Instead, focus on them, focus on the here and now, focus on the moment, be in the moment, and make that emotional connection in order to ultimately move beyond a transaction into hopefully a lifetime relationship.
Yeah. It's so important for you to remember that it was connections that brought you in to maybe the job or the school or the friends that you have. If you think about it at its very core, it was how you related to others. And I've also been told a lot of times, oh, well, Lou, you happen to be a very outgoing, I'm an extrovert. I love to be, open and honest, and I'm always meeting people. I want to make it very clear to you that that isn't what connecting is about. That actually could be what networking is about. And I have a big distinguishing factor between what a networking is and what connecting is. The best way to think of it is if this is Joseph's world and this is my world, and we met recently, we met in Clubhouse, and we met on a virtual environment, and we got about this close, right? We basically networked, if you would. And it led to another conversation. But at that moment that we networked, we were like this, two worlds just touching each other. We weren't really getting to know one another. We didn't know what each other was about. Now we were part of our network, which is, by the way, an important skill set that you need to have. You have to grow your network, but that's not connecting. What I'm looking to do is actually something I love to call, which is called connect working, which is basically bringing those worlds together, where the two worlds are overlapping, where I see into Joseph's world, Joseph sees into mine. We understand how we can add value to each other and how we can help one another. Standing in your shoes, you standing in mine. It is here, right here, that overlap that is actually where growth happens. It is actually where opportunities exist. It is where business gets done. And so often we're so focused on networking and bringing people close, but not spending the time on making sure that we develop that strong relationship that you just described. Those are things that when you've lasted, and by the way, you might not always have as tight a bond or as overlapped as you'd like, but once you've had a piece of that connection, you're connected for a very long time. Working at it and maintaining it is essential to maintain that longer term growth that isn't just about a transactional way of thinking from a sales perspective. It's that bigger sell, it's that longer relationship, the partnerships, mergers, acquisitions, those type of connections. That's the stuff where we know that it isn't about thousands or millions, it's about millions and billions.
So now I want to see if this works, because this is my programmable button, which should play unless I've changed it. I don't know if that's gold.
I couldn't
Jerry.
hear it.
Gold.
What did it say?
Let me try it again. Wait.
Oh, that's gold, Jerry. Do it again.
So I
love Kramer.
For a bit of a schlocky thing, I decided to bring that into my show. But I loved it. I love connect working, and I love the fact that what you've done is you've brought two bubbles, two worlds, right, two circles, and created the Venn diagram, and recognized the things that we have in common, the things that bind us, are the things that keep us together. And I mean, just in this day, we found out we're both 50 years old. We're both from the same neck of the woods. And I'm not referring to Brooklyn and Staten Island, but Russia and Lithuania.
Yes.
And now we're connected on Peloton as well. So looking forward to those Matt Wilper's Power Zone endurance rides.
I don't know about you, as much as I am in the Matt Wilper one. I'm looking more for Kendall's ride. I think that'll be harder. I think we both are going to have to go on one of those and see each other cry and be beat by a 27-year-old.
I think my wife is actually watching this right now, so I'm just going to stick with Matt Wilper's. But
fair enough.
But Lou, another word inherent in all of that is empathy.
Yeah.
And the ability to truly make that connection. And I just wonder, I mean, I was on your show today. By the way, let's take a step back for a second. This is kind of cool. I was on your show.
Yes.
And now you are on my show. Well, you're actually not technically even on my show yet, because I'm experimenting by doing an Instagram Live and then using this video on my actual show at a point in the future where you may or may not be on the show with me, both of us kind of watching us and commenting and engaging with people watching us. It's very meta.
Yes.
But we've reversed the roles. And I think one of the things that you asked me was whether, in fact, social media has actually played a positive role. And it has been vilified with the Social Dilemma, with Fake Famous, with all of these documentaries. But whether, in fact, in this time of disconnection and isolation, this virtual existence, this social virtual existence, has actually brought people together and helped them reconnect with one another.
It's such an interesting snapshot of time during the pandemic. And you mentioned the documentary or whatever, a docudrama, I think is what Social Dilemma was, which was really interesting because it got my college-age daughter to take TikTok off of her phone, like literally after watching that, being completely scared of all the information being passed back and forth. But it was interesting, right? Because that movie harped on a lot of the problems that social media has had, and they are real. Suicide attempts by middle school children elevating, as with more access to social media, eating disorders, social problems, lots of issues that the imagery of social media has been getting a real bad rap for. Yet in the same exact time, we have managed to utilize a communication platform in Zoom to connect our businesses and be able to work together, connect via a voice-only live platform in Clubhouse. People have been able to utilize what we're doing right now at an increased volume where people can learn and have more access, more e-learning classes. It's a seesaw of things that have been going really well and things that probably have been detrimental. And what I think is important is, like people like yourself with this program, the constant effort of pushing the positivity momentum and giving great, wonderful thoughts, giving great suggestive ideas, things that will lift us up and make us thrive in this environment, because there had been such a negative vortex of such bad things in social media. I didn't even mention the political environment we were in, that the more of this that we do, the better. You're familiar with the tipping point. If we just get 1% of the population to just be in the positive mode, we're already making a change and changing the world. So what is really appreciative of this time that we're in is to find a way to utilize platforms like these for the best methods of what they can deliver, the best outputs of what they can do, and the best ways they can connect. And I think you're living proof of that. My podcast show has been doing it for a long time, but I think it's even more important today than ever.
How many episodes have you done of your show, by the way?
So we have many shows. So let's go through all of them. So Thrive Loud has. I just recorded right after your episode. I think it was the 625th epised.
You did Loud. One in between our two.
Yes, in between our two, there was one other wonderful woman her name is Monica, but I don't know if her episode is going to flow exactly after yours. So I've done over 600 some odd episodes with Thrive Loud. There have been another, we'll call it 300 to 400 episodes on other podcast programs that are still out there, just different terms. We've had bedside readings, Authors That Thrive, where we segmented all the best-selling authors and put them in a different show. We have a show called Why They Listen. You talked about the power of empathy. That is a big thing in my world. Understanding exactly why people are listening and decoding exactly what is resonating between our ears and the messages that we love to hear and listen to, like you with Tim Ferriss and Howard Stern. Those things that keep you going and those programming that have drawn you in because it's unique and there's a reason why you listen each day. So we've been featuring a lot of those types of shows. And I also do a very, very fun sports show with my good friend Evan Money, who's on the West Coast, who I met through Thrive Loud. And we created a show called Diamond Cuts, Money Talks, Lou Diamond, Evan Money. And it's a show about life, leadership, the NFL, and other sports too. So
wow.
There's over 1,000 some odd episodes, we believe, I think is what it is.
My son just got into University of Miami. He's going to be studying sports management. So if you're looking for an intern to help you with research, guest relations, he comes really cheap, let me tell you.
Well, I'll say this, we have the reason why Thrive Loud has been so successful, this is my shout out to them, the Thrive Loud interns, and we have had over the last 4.5 years, close to 30 of them. They are some of the most incredible communication students you'll ever find, and they have helped design and make Thrive Loud what it is today. So I owe the show's success to them. So interns rock. Just want to make that clear.
I want to say that if you are watching right now and you want to comment, shout out, ask a question, I believe you can do that. You asked a question earlier. Go for it. I'm still learning the ins and outs of Instagram Live, trying to figure out exactly who's watching, who isn't. I'm seeing a lot of people and I'm waving at all of you as well. So I have no idea what the numbers actually are, whether people are dropping in and dropping out. That is the new way, by the way. That is the new, I did a room earlier on Clubhouse and, we probably had about 115 people at the height. But in terms of total people that were in and out that room, there were over 600. I was thinking to myself, listen, that's a success for me to give a keynote speech or to talk to a room filled with 600 people that are engaged. But I just want to take a step back. This was my day today. I did my show, Corona TV, from 12 to 1. Then we have a Zoom after show from 1 to 1:30. Then I did my brands in Clubhouse from 2 to 4. Then I did your show, clearly the highlight of my day, from 4:30 to 5-ish or 5:15. Then I took a small break, and now I'm doing this. What did you do today?
Oh my goodness. So let's see. From breakfast at an early hour, from 8 to 12. I was doing some dedicated work for one of the clients that I help with their sales and marketing to help them better connect to their customers and their targets. So I was doing my work. And from 12 o'clock straight through to right now, with one little break in there, because we had one cancellation, either doing interviews on Thrive Loud or on an interview for Why They Listen, which we did today. Because we basically binge record all the shows on one day of the week. Otherwise, it would just occupy too many days of my life. I've got too much other work, speaking opportunities, consulting projects that I do with my clients throughout the week. So it's too much to do intra-day if I did it that way. And we're playing with emojis here. I found one and you found one. See, we're quite
I'm
good
trying
at
to also figure out how I can get rid of all the the comments so that I can just see your face.
Yeah,
at the moment.
I think if you press, like I just pressed on your face by doing that and it kind of cleared it, or you can hit refresh. Here we are. That flipped my camera around. We don't want to do that. Hold on. Come back.
Oh no, wait. We both
There we
flipped
go.
our cameras.
We both flipped up. We now know what the camera flipping button is. We're very good at that.
Yeah,
This should be the
and
video that shows how other people don't do the.
and once again we've shown our age. But the thing is, so the reason why you came up with binge recording. Let's talk a little bit about the dynamic of two dynamics. One we discussed earlier, and the other one I'll bring up now. What is the difference for you when you are a guest on a show versus being the host? Because we've reversed roles right now.
Yeah. So it's really funny. I have a good sense of timing when I am the host. I'll even lay out, as I did with you, the timing of the show, that what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do during this window. This is when this will happen. So I kind of keep it bookended so we don't go running off course too much. And if there's running water in the background, I apologize. There might be running water if you hear it through my microphone. But the biggest difference, I think, is I am an active listener as the host. And I am really feeding off of everything that the guest says. And I'm really reacting and listening. I'm trying to actually be as empathetic as possible, to stand in your shoes and connect on that point as the host. As the guest, I am just basically in a sandbox. I'm like, which way is this guy going to guide me? And I'm pretty easy to be trained. The best example I can have for the best guest experience, host guest experience, in some of those karate movies, the instructor or the sensei will have like those wood rods, which are like parallel, and they'll try to get you to the instructor will move them this way and you'll have to copy and mimic it. Those motions, that's kind of the way, it's like a marionette type of thing. That's how I like to be as a guest. Just let the guest just dangle me and flip it around when I'm the host. I'll use that analogy.
I've also found that a couple of differences. One is when I'm a guest, I'm going to talk a lot more.
Oh yeah.
And probably be closer to the way I was before the pandemic. When I'm a host, I'm going to learn as well to actively listen. And one of the things that for me has been my jujitsu has been that I don't prepare questions.
I only have one question as a host that I was always the same. That's it. Otherwise, everything is just take it as it goes. That's it.
So we have the same style, basically, it would appear, which is you have a couple of loose ideas. So, for example, I wanted to discuss, which came from our previous discussion, which is what is it like when you flip the script and you move from host to guest, guest to host? But the other thing, you said something to me that I found to be amazing. I find energy-wise, it takes a lot out of you when you are present, when you are, in the moment, when you're giving your best self and your best of yourself. And I said to you, do you want to take a break? Should we do it maybe tomorrow? And you're like, hell no. This is just what gets me going. So talk a little bit about how you just you trade on this energy.
I had this conversation with John Lee Dumas when he was a guest on my show. And for those who are podcast fans, John Lee Dumas is the host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And he has a book that's just coming out, and he had all these special promos for it. And he was back to back to back to back on being on the tour. And I looked at it, and in that conversation, I noticed how many episode numbers, how many guests he's interviewed. And then he shared in the conversation that he's down now to interviewing 1 day a month. And in that day, by the way, he can go up. At one point, it went up to like 16 interviews in 1 day. And I'm like, wow, that's just crazy. He has it now about between 8 and 12, typically, just because of programming. And I said to him, are you exhausted after that? And he replied back, I'm not. In fact, I feed off the energy. And I thought about it, and I started looking at the way that I do my day. I'm better by each sequential interview because what that guest is giving, what the positive messages they're doing, what I'm learning is kind of pumping me up. It's like, all right, this is great. Now, if I'm speaking all day long, I would be tired. So I'm mostly listening. If you knew this, if you were editing a track of a podcast, and you saw the sound waves of when the guest is speaking, when the host is speaking, you know, there are much longer windows when the guest is speaking on the track versus the host's questions or period. But what I love, you could see that my energy level picks up even in that graphical view of the interview. Even my volume gets bigger as the interview continues intra-interview within it, because I've been picking up so much energy, as much as I can, from a great guest on the program. I do love that, and I do feed off of it.
I love that style, and my only anecdote to share with you is I had Lodro Rinsler on the show, and he did my first introduction to meditation. So for 10 minutes we meditated, and I actually sent him the audio file, the waves of the audio files, to show what 10 minutes of meditation looks like.
That's great.
I was like, it did not make for good video or audio. Probably audio would be like, I'm running, but I don't understand. But anyway, that to me was very interesting. You focus on, so I want to focus on two words, right?
Sure. Just
in your words, thrive and loud.
Yeah.
Now, the word thrive, define thrive for me, please.
Moving onward and upward. I think even synonymously, as I recall, you have a definition of thrive that equals growth. And I believe that, by the way. That's why thrive is all green. Green is very growth, and thinking of, and environmentally sound too, which is all in line with that.
Financially and environmentally.
Yes, but it is, and for me, this is real important actually. If you are making buku cash and all you're doing is work all day long, make it clear that is not someone that is thriving on all aspects of life. They might be doing well in one particular region, but to me, thriving is very much thematic to what the show is. You need to be thriving in your life, your business, and your passion. And I say, like, from a life, your physical well-being, what you're eating, your meditation, your working out, your Peloton workouts, keeping yourself in better shape. We need to be thriving in our life and taking care of this one vessel that we've been given on this planet. At least we know one time around, we're only given one. We get to the end of the life cycle and learn that it comes back over again. Who knows? So life, in your business, what you're doing and being creative, it's about making money, but it's also about making those connections and relationships to help grow your business and market your brand and everything you do, and a passion. And it's really interesting that some people, I just interviewed a woman who, her passion was for music, and she played the clarinet in New York City. And that was, and still is, an integral part of her life. And she always makes sure she finds time to tap into the passion that she loves, which is music. Each of us has something different. And throughout our lives, we have lots of passions. We have lots of things that we care about and want to do. Thriving individuals manage to balance these three, manage to figure out how to move onward and upward in each of those aspects of your life to truly be a master connector in all those worlds that you bring together. So to me, that's what thriving is, moving onward and upward on those life, business, and passions of your life.
I love that whole analogy, and in many respects, you know, I've been running this room in Clubhouse on pivot your brand, your career, your life. It's interesting how, like, the secret, if there is a secret, it says that it's not one size fits all, and it's not one dimensional, that there are multiple dimensions that have to live on top of one another in order to support something that is rich and robust, and I mean, that's what it is. It's three-dimensional. It's funny, like even reach, connect, effect is 3D.
Yeah.
I've always believed everything happens and should happen in threes. But that's great. Now, the other part is loud. And and what I found is, first of all, you know, if people are watching and they're thinking, Lou Diamond, wait a second, Lou Diamond, I know who Lou Diamond is, Lou Diamond Phillips, right?
Got it all the time.
And what you've done is you know, necessity is the mother of invention. I love this story. Lou Diamond becomes Lou D, becomes loud, becomes Thrive Loud. And of course, loud and proud, and loud in terms of passion, and loud in terms of being extroverted and vocalizing. And that has become your brand, and your brand is consistent even on Peloton. Same logo.
Yes, we have
name.
this little icon, or this one over here behind my chair, I think is, I can't spin the chair the right way, but that one is what I have in Peloton. You know, you've nailed it. It was just the story is really interesting. It was a happy accident, as I love to say. My son, when I was coming up with a name for the podcast, we were looking at different names for the show. And at the time I had my social media page up in Twitter, because I had a Twitter account, but it was not Thrive Loud. We had just launched the Thrive business, and Thrive Loud was not too far behind it. And we had my Instagram, my Twitter handle became Thrive Lou D. In fact, if you look at it, actually, you could see it's a capital L and a capital D. And when we were thinking about a name for the podcast, it was my son who basically said, well, you already have it. It's Thrive Loud. And that's what he thought it was. He didn't even see the Lou D part. But it is who I am. It is what I'm about. I'm always about moving onward and upward. I'm always about keeping those 3 lanes constantly thriving and doing it at the top of your game, let alone the fact I happen to have a pretty boisterous voice. You're a speaker as well. There's a great story that I did a sound check at a pretty large venue. It was like a 400 person type of room. It wasn't like 1,000 type thing, but it was pretty big. Anyway, there was a problem with the lavalier mic, and the guy in the back was like, all right, let's do a sound check. And I just started talking regularly. And he goes, you sound good, but it doesn't sound as loud as it could be. And then he realized, oh my God, the mic wasn't, I turned it on and I just amplified it. I probably blew out a couple of ear drums on that particular day. So yeah, I've not been the quiet type, Joseph, not my entire life.
No, and nor have I. But the message that I just wanted to touch on there was this idea of, and it's not adversity per se, but it's actually recognizing that there was a weakness, which is I can't be found on Google. You know, I'm struggling. I'm buried in not just noise, but in this case, you know, the presence of a certain celebrity. And so you've not only been able to solve for that, but you've created identity that is now so much a part of you that it even is your avatar on Peloton.
Yeah, and we even had a change. So the company is Thrive Partners. Was the if you look up the legal name of Thrive, we had to change. We changed everything to Thrive Loud. The .com, every aspect of it, the way we do business with it. Yes, because Lou Diamond Phillips. I mean, my name is a blessing and a curse, as I love to say. Everyone remembers it. For those of a certain age, they'll put the similarity to Lou Diamond Phillips. And if you search Lou Diamond, that's who you're going to find anywhere in the internet, because he is a famous person for the last 40 years. So it's a challenge to compete with that. And we just found a way to keep us focused on what we can do. And the podcast has been one of the best amplifiers for it. Let it make it clear. The podcast is a driver of bringing in clients into the Thrive business. So it all comes together. Remember those 3. And my passion, by the way, I have to say this, if I'll bring it into the camera view here, the microphone is definitely a passion of mine. Being the podcast host, I love this connecting, and I love the ability to use this platform. So it definitely is something that we're trying to embody each and every day in different ways. And you'll hear when your episode comes out, we'll do something fun to make it a little unique and specific to someone like yourself.
Well, again, there are so many powerful lessons there, which is love what you do, be true to yourself, stay the course. That's actually become my mantra through this pandemic. But it's clear that you're not dialing it in. It's also clear that it's so connected to your business, but it isn't, it isn't the bad kind of transparent. It is an extension of who you are. One of the things that's always happened to me is I always found that I would always say, you've probably seen this as an author yourself, and you'll be talking, you'll be like, and in the book I say, and in the book I say, and in the book I say, and at one point the host is like, we get it, you wrote a book, you're trying to sell the book, and your response is, no, I'm not, it's just an extension of me. I'm not actually trying to shill it. I'm just like, I can't separate the book. It's almost pride to say, I captured that moment. It's there. It's like, it's for you. It's to share.
It's a hard balance. It's funny because you've heard the expression, you know, I am absolutely in the more newer camp of never selling from the stage. And, you know, there is a generation of other speakers who are a little older than us, who hawk their goods right on the platform. And I've witnessed it a couple of times. And in the true spirit of our conversation here, I've been disconnected from that experience, where bringing the worlds together, because I find that overlapping commonality, when I felt I've been pushed or told or, you know, driven something that felt transactional versus connection and relationship focused in that way, that I'm not going to connect with the speaker. In fact, it did something unbelievable. It almost felt disingenuous to me. And what it did was it pushed me apart. It actually made me not want to connect to that individual. I've seen that in a lot of people's work. Unfortunately, I've seen it recently, or let me phrase this, I've heard it recently in Clubhouse. I was, you know, went into a room and someone who's up there as a moderator was actually hawking, you know, their 5-figure platform or whatever it might have been. And they must have said it 3 or 4 times. And I remember going, I want to leave this room. I want to leave quietly. I actually was looking for the leave loudly button. I'm actually going to put in a request that I want to not just leave quietly from a Clubhouse room. I want the leave LOUD all in capitals loudly.
Or if you could brand that is brilliantly. It's like and don't let the door hit you.
It would literally be when you leave, it'll be like a door slam that comes in as you leave the room. That would be really funny, by the way.
Leave loudly. It's so brilliant. You should it's like a smart bomb. You should be able to have one leave loudly every, you know, for every hour you create, you get one leave loudly, where you get to just basically stick it to the gratuitous.
How great would that be, by the way? Instead of getting an invite to invite somebody into the Clubhouse, you get a leave loudly button, so that when you leave, the door slams. Actually, it even does like a door creaking sound. It does like a boom.
I want to tell you, just by the way, a quick story.
Sure.
Probably second year university, college in South Africa, and biggest class that I was a part of was accounting. By the way, hated it, which is why I'm a marketer. You know, just did not, as I often say, marketers, you know, we don't know how to save money, we just know how to spend it. But anyway, so like we're in this room with, let's say 1,000 people. It was huge. And in the middle, and so our lecturer, I even think I remember his name was Sid Wheel. He did not enjoy people leaving his class, even to go to the restroom. And in the middle of this class, this guy is sitting in the middle of the middle row, could not be more center. Long, blonde, bleached hair, like down beyond his shoulders. And he gets up and he's like, I'm going to do like a bit of like a, you know, Bill and Ted's like, sorry, dude, you know, like, excuse me, pardon me, sorry, dude, sorry, excuse me, sorry. And after like he's halfway through and he's like bumping into everyone, this guy, the lecturer, he turns around and he just stops and he folds his hands and he just watches, and there's dead silence. And the guy's like, excuse me, sorry, dude, pardon me, excuse me. And eventually he gets to the end, he walks to the top, and as he's about to open the door, the lecturer looks at him, he puts his finger at him, he goes, and where the hell do you think you're going? And the guy looks at him, he goes, surf's up, dude, surf's up, and walks straight out. I'll never forget that moment.
That is spectacular.
So if not a leave loudly, at least a surf's up, dude button.
You just reminded me, I don't know if you're a fan of the Mel Brooks movies, but
of course.
To Be or Not to Be, the character played by Tim Matheson, of course, he was getting up to, during the Hamlet soliloquy, he was going up to have a romantic interlude with Mel Brooks's wife, actually in real life and whatever, Anne Bancroft, and he was going to meet her backstage, and he used to literally, as soon as you heard To Be or Not to Be, stood up in the middle and did that. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. It was always good, and he was just absolutely outraged in the middle of his soliloquy. So, but that's a much better story, sir.
Yeah, Mel Brooks. Now we have something else in common, and then we could go into history of the world, and we could go into Monty Python, and as you know,
Yes.
one of my favorite movies is My Cousin Vinny, and so on it goes. Now, in the time that we have left, and this is for me, it didn't begin the right way because we couldn't figure out how to do this. The two old men.
Technical difficulties.
But it became a splendid opportunity, second opportunity for us to continue to get to know one another. There are a bunch of things. You gave me my time to plug my show, and I want to give you the same. But there are a couple of things that I was intrigued when I was looking at a very simple form that you filled out. You said, elevating the brilliant minds of women with success.com. I would love to hear about that. I would love to hear special project for 2022. What is that? What can you tell me? And then, of course, how can people find you, find your wonderful podcast, your company, etc.?
Sure. So I'll give that part first. Anywhere on social media, I can be found at Thrive Loud, ThriveLoud. And ThriveLoud.com is the host for the podcast, for our consulting business, for finding anywhere I speak, where I'm always about helping to better connect people and engage your audience. That is the sweet spot of where I am. That's the sandbox that I play in, which works very good for salespeople, marketers, and leaders. The two other projects going on. So it actually spawned out of Clubhouse. I was invited into a room and I was brought up on stage, and there were many people in there. And it was the name of the room was sponsored by Success.com. It was about elevating the brilliant minds of women, was the name of the room. And while we were in the room, there were many women that felt they were being slighted or not getting a fair number of stage opportunities, media posts, media programs. And I said, I am a man, I'm not a woman, but I'm going to help elevate the brilliant minds of women. Right now, anybody in this Clubhouse room, I said out loud, if you're in here, take a picture of this room, show that you were here, DM me in Instagram, and I will bring you on the Thrive Loud podcast, and we will do a joint piece with Success.com. We will promote you across both the Thrive Loud platform and Success.com. Truth be told, Success.com did not know that I was doing this when I said this. Within an hour, close to 60 women reached out to try to come on to the podcast. We have tried to accommodate, not all of them, but many of them. And we have literally every other week been launching 3 episodes of these amazing women who are thriving in their lives, their businesses, and their passions, and joint promoting it through Success.com. These are Thrive Loud worthy guests anyway, amazing people who had been scheduled and trying to get on the program. We just put it under a better umbrella because it also coincided with International Women's Day as well when we launched it. And each episode is just more and more awesome. So those that fall under this program.
At least you didn't do what Burger King did with their tweet.
Women belong in the
that's
kitchen.
Not the tagline of. By the way, I want to lean into that wonderful spirit and generosity to say that it is a firm commitment from my part as well to. As my friend Mitch Scholl would say, to diversify from pale, male, and stale, and so especially based on limited numbers or opportunities. If you want to make some introductions,
absolutely.
I would absolutely love to demonstrate as well a portfolio of guests on Corona TV. That represents the world, the real world, and not just a sliver of that world.
And that was the whole idea for the program. It's turned out to be great for a lot of reasons, but it's been a great promotion for everybody. and that's the high level. Now, the special project for 2022 has literally just been announced, and well, it hasn't been announced yet. We've just begun it, but we've hinted to it in this particular interview. Let's just say the research is being done, the creative process is in the works, and by spring of next year, we'll have a lot more to talk about. But that'll be a special project focused on that specific aspect of what I speak about, maybe in a little bit more direct way, on ways that we can better connect and engage an audience more effectively.
I love it. I love it.
So
I
it's
love
pretty
it. And it is an incentive, if we even needed one, for you to come back and tell us more about it, and for us to keep talking and collaborating. It's interesting how our lives are following these beautiful parallel paths. You thinking about how to make the experience of speaking and connecting with audiences richer. For me, focused on how we can help creators be monetized for their IP, their talent, their effort, and be elevated as well. You know what? I came up with a tagline today: elevate, celebrate, compensate. That's
I like
those
that.
are my three.
And as I remembered, celebrate really works, because I learned that you are a big Kool in the Gang fan and a big fan of celebrate, good times come home.
I mean, you know, that would be the perfect way to make sure that anyone who was watching would stop watching when we burst into our...
Dun, 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 dun. No, we don't want to do that.
And you know, it wouldn't be a proper bar mitzvah without that song.
Absolutely
playing.
not. It's either that or We Are Family. One of the two would be played.
Okay, that comes.
Doug, I don't know if you know this. The Nice Guys on Business podcast, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner. They're a perfect match, because Doug is a former bar mitzvah and wedding DJ, and Strickland is a guitarist from a wedding band. And the two of them over the last 5 years have merged together in the land of podcasts. But it is fun, because I always make fun of them with the music, but I will make it clear that Doug is not only a master of all of those songs, he could be the greatest Simon Says man I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never in my life, and I've been to a bunch. So go check it out. Try to get by and get through a round with that guy.
I'm not even going to attempt it. It just frustrates me. I can't even do this properly. I actually can't believe that after 40 odd minutes on your show, almost an hour on this show, I feel like we're just getting started. But
we are. But as you said, man, dude, surf's up.
I know. Well done.
That's where we're at.
Well done. Although the ring light is cruel.
See, wait, hold on. Isn't it? Don't you love when they do that? When they put, like, I've got the ring lights right in the middle of the eyes.
Yeah. You look like you're about to be beamed up, Scotty.
There you go.
I want to do one thing before you go and hit the surf. Even though this episode will not air as part of Corona TV, this week, I have a Corona question that I ask all my guests, and I want to ask you the same question to end today's interview. Which is, how will you be remembered?
Wow. If I had my wishes, it would be in this order. Great father, great husband, great friend, great human. I would leave it at that.
And I'm gonna add one more, which is great host, great guest, and I always like to go. Hang on, I'm just receiving with my invisible, non-existent earpiece. Lou Diamond Phillips has just fired his entire staff because apparently every time people are searching for Loud right now, they're not finding him. So. We have come full circle, not the ring light, but a different full circle.
We'll bring the ring lights back in. There we go. There they are.
You're on mute.
Oh, I do that at least once an episode.
At least have an episode. Yeah. So
It's I was taking notes, and I loved it. I mean, it
of course you did. You were in it.
No, I loved you.
Oh.
I mean, I hated me. Manif, it happens every episode. I'm just giving up on it now. So listen, we're gonna head on over to Clubhouse for a little bit. I know you have to be up at like 3:30 in the morning, but we'll go over there. I did find a quote for you, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And
did you have a question for me?
No, I mean you kind of answer. I didn't realize you'd answer the question, but here's your quote, and I have no idea what this means. We can discuss it in Clubhouse. Man thrives where angels would die of ecstasy and where pigs would die of disgust. I loved it. I have no idea what it means. But I think it's brilliant.
Man thrives where angels would die of ecstasy.
Kenneth Charles Marion Rexroth was an American poet, translator, and critical essayist. Man thrives where angels would die of ecstasy and where pigs would die of disgust. We will discuss that.
I don't even know where to go with that.
On Clubhouse, but it means something, and it's about thriving. And you know what? Thank you for coming in again and again and again. This is basically Groundhog Day.
And I'm glad that I kept on brand and I wore the same T-shirt for each one of these interviews. I didn't even plan it that way, but I do have a lot of black T-shirts. So.
I also have not even left basically this desk since. So anyway, the catheter is working, but
so we went from Instagram to LinkedIn and YouTube via StreamYard, watching Instagram, and now we're going into Clubhouse to talk about all of them.
And
you are Chuck Norris approved.
And you still got Chuck Norris approved. Let's go into Clubhouse. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for your time.
You got it.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.